Hey everyone, welcome back to Bridging Innovation Week. My name is Matt Ditchin and I'm here with our next guest, Brad Smith, President of Marshall University. So Brad, I want to talk a little bit about kind of what you already spoke on. Just talk about the mindset. Where do you feel West Virginia is at right now in business and entrepreneurs? What are we doing right and what can we do better?
I feel a new dawn emerging in West Virginia. You know, one of my favorite quotes is Michelangelo that said, "Success is seldom limited when you aim too high and you fall a little short. It's when you aim too low and you hit the mark." And we're starting to dream big again. This is a great example with Bridging Innovation. We have amazing things happening all over the state. We have populations starting to move into the state again. You have entrepreneurs dreaming, and I think this is a chance for us to really capture lightning in a bottle and take it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we talk a lot about all these ideas, but talk about the importance of like taking that action, taking those steps, and what actions are Marshall and across the state that you've seen that are we taking towards that right step of a brighter future?
Yeah, and I think it starts with mindset. I'm often asked the question, what's the difference between your time in Silicon Valley for 20 years and your time in West Virginia? And I said the answer is really one word. When you ask somebody out in Silicon Valley, hey, do you want to start a business? They say, why not? If you ask someone here in West Virginia, they say, why? Why do you think I could? And I think it's that mindset of recognizing we have all the skills that it takes, we have all the assets it takes, we have all the support in the ecosystem it takes. It's just a matter of initiative. And I always remind people, ideas don't move mountains, bulldozers do. Just get out there, give it a shot, be okay with getting knocked down, dust yourself off. Things will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, I know that once you start something, it might not work out. It might not work the first or second time. And so talk about the importance of failure. And like you mentioned that story that you're talking about, failure. You didn't find wrong ways to do things. You found just ways that didn't work. So talk a little bit about failure and how important that is to still moving forward too.
Yes, and it really is rooted in this concept called design thinking. It was popularized at Stanford's design school. IDEO is a consulting firm that spread it throughout private industry. Everyone that basically invents new things, from Apple to Intuit to Amazon, use design thinking. And it teaches you to fall in love with the problem and not an idea. So really go deep to understand what's the root cause of the problem, and then come up with at least 7 different ways to solve that problem, and then run experiments and be okay with failing fast. You can succeed faster. And the story I use is Thomas Edison. You know, he invented the light bulb, and it took him 10,006 attempts to invent the light bulb. And the story goes that a young reporter from the New York Times came up and stuck a microphone in front of his face and said, how did it feel to fail 10,005 times? And being a wise scientist, he said, you know, young man, I didn't fail 10,005 times. I proved 10,005 ways that it wouldn't work. That's what it takes to be an entrepreneur is, okay, get out there, get knocked down, dust yourself off, pivot, and persevere.
Absolutely. And speaking of what we have going on this week, I mean, this is the 3rd annual Bridging Innovation Week. What does it mean to you that this year that we have Bridging Innovation Week here in Huntington, West Virginia, your backyard?
Well, it means a lot because we have a plan as a state. It was actually grounded in work done in 2016 called West Virginia Forward. We want to become the startup state. Just like Israel's known as the startup nation, and France has created an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and India is doing the same thing. We've studied the best practices of everyone around the globe, as well as those near us, Pittsburgh, Detroit, others that are creating a renaissance. And to do that, you can't just have one place. You have to have an ecosystem. So I love that we have seen different parts of the state hosting Bridging Innovation, and that we see everyone participating. And what we said is we all have to play the orchestra. Some of us are drummers, some of us play trumpets, some play sax, but we also play the same sheet of music called entrepreneurship, and we will create the startup state.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think our state is such a ripe, we have the energy, the support, the people who want to see us succeed. What advice would you give, because this week we also have, in addition to Ignite and Spark, we have college students and then also middle school and high school students. Anyone who maybe is considering it or maybe hears about Bridging Innovation, what advice would you give them, no matter what age, to get started today on that next business idea or their business venture?
Take the first step. I thought Victor Wang said it best. He said, just get out the door. You know, get started. One of the things that I always worry about is when I'll tell someone about a startup, they'll say, well, I don't have a good idea. Very seldom does an entrepreneur start with an idea. They start with something in their life that they just think is not right. Hey, I can't get my tickets fast enough. I can't find a parking place when I'm trying to go to school. And then they say, what would be a better way to solve this problem? And then they start to come up with a bunch of different ideas. That's what you need. You don't need a spreadsheet. You don't need to have an investor. In fact, I shared up on stage that today all these augmented reality goggles that we see actually started with Google Labs, and Google Labs started with a coat hanger, a piece of acetate, and a flashlight. And that has now given birth to what we see all over, like Oculus and these other things. So it takes scrappy experiments and just falling in love with the problem and coming up with a great idea.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's great. You start with an idea and just see where it goes, and we have here in the state the support, the resources to help you succeed. Last thing I want to ask you, since we're almost out of time, what are you looking forward to? You did the hard part, you spoke already in your keynote. What are you looking forward to the rest of this week?
Getting the chance to share time with so many like-minded innovators, change agents, thought leaders, to hear from the wisdom of those that will be on stage, but more importantly, to spend time in the social setting, just hearing about the ideas people are thinking about in their area.
Well, Brad Smith, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for being here, and yeah, I can't wait to see what else we have cooking up in the state and see where we'll be in the next 5 years. So,
Thank you. Thanks
thank
for
you so
having
much
me.
for being here, Brad.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will be right back with our next guest.